Howdy everyone to the first midweek live stream. If this has been posted like post live stream, means it's done quite well because I actually don't know how this is going to go at this time of the day and everything. So just thought I'd try it out and see. So if you're watching this and you're not actually in the live stream, you must have done quite well. If anyone is in need of any of my help whatsoever, by all means, check out the links down below. They'll take you to my website where you can sign up for coaching and such. My Instagram and TikTok and everything is also linked down below, where there's different kinds of content that you can see. And yeah, the usual spiel. I don't know what else I say. So now I'm just going to wait and see if there's anybody that joins. If not, hey, we have a person join. That's cool. Howdy, howdy. John West says, "Hi Matt, good timing. I was looking for a live, perfect timing." Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% sure how effective this live is going to be because I've not done one at this time before. So, like this time or this day, really. So it might just be you and I. So who knows? But yeah, I'm glad you're here. Glad to have everyone who does show up here. Anand says, "Hey, Matt, howdy, howdy, Anand. How's it going?" And then said it was quite a surprise seeing the stream now. Yeah, so I've said it a couple of times now. So anyone watching this posting, apologies. Yeah, so basically, now that I'm full time working for like YouTube and the business and such, I thought I'd try and do an extra live stream for people that may not be able to get access to the live on the normal times because I know it's quite late on our Saturdays for a lot of people. So I thought I'd try it today, see if this time was any good, and if not, then I'll readjust and such. But we'll have to see how it goes, I suppose. But I'm glad to have you here. Satyam says, "Hi, hey, if I affirm as though it already happened, will it work?" Yes, that is essentially what sort of impressing your subconscious mind is all about, is assuming that it's already done right now, taking on the version of yourself that already has it right now, and then continuing to persist in those new assumptions. So yes, absolutely. If you affirm as though it's already happened, it will work. Need to get my phone out of my pocket. And then Satyam also says, "Can you explain what is a state?" So a state is sort of the version of yourself that you're operating as. It's think of it more like a persona, I suppose. So a state is, let's use money as the example. Someone who is rich will have the state of being rich, as in they'll perceive outer things, their thoughts, their feelings, and their actions will all be dictated by the state that they're in. So if they're a rich person, they're not going to look at a random bill, for example, and start to panic and freak out because they operate from a state of being rich. They are a rich individual. Now, they are already obviously rich, and therefore they can handle it the way that a rich person would, but a broke person could enter the state of being rich by acting, feeling, thinking, and all those sorts of things the same way that a rich person would. So think of it like a persona that you can step into. Um, Emma says, "How many times to visualize to impress the subconscious mind?" It's person dependent. You see all of these videos that are like, "Oh, impress it in 10 seconds and such." And I think that it is possible, but I think the vast majority of people, especially with visualization, I know I hear a lot more complaints about visualization than anything else because people struggle to do it like effectively. It will be person dependent. If you can feel into this scene really well, it'll only take you once or twice, maybe. If you struggle with visualization, then it'll probably take you a fair few times. So kind of judge that based on how well you feel you visualize, how well you feel you enter the state when it comes to visualization, and judge it from there. You're I can't speak. Hey, you're beautiful says good morning. Good morning to you too. There's actually a lot more people joining than I thought it would be. Marianne says, "Hi Matt, how are you?" I'm very good, thank you. How are you doing? Satyam says, "Hey, is it okay to manifest sex from my SP, and can you give me an affirmation for that?" Okay, so I'll give you an affirmation anyway because that's your question. But one thing that I think is worth taking into consideration is sex the end result? Because there'll be times when, and I've had this in my own experience in the past, where I've gone for something thinking this thing will lead to this thing, which will lead to this thing. And because I didn't really place my focus on the end result, I didn't get it. So I got the thing that I wanted, but that didn't lead to what I actually wanted. So is sex the actual end result? If not, I would advise going for the end result. If it is, then by all means. But an affirmation that you can like use for that, I suppose, is um person and I had amazing sex together, or I'm so grateful that person and I sleep with each other regularly, or it feels so amazing to be able to have sex with such and such person. Whatever it is that makes you feel as though it's already happened, kind of gets you into that state of like, yep, it's done. Me and her are engaging and all that kind of stuff. Natasha says, hello, everyone. Howdy, howdy, Natasha. And Anne says, oh, yeah, I've been reading those posts, but was still like kind of a stream right now. Well, anyway, sounds nice. Yeah, like I said, it's all trial and error. I'm just going to see how it goes. There's a better turnout so far than I thought there would be. So this will probably be more of a regular thing. And I'll probably do some more like community post sort of polls to see if anyone has better times. And if there's more of like a, time, maybe 1 o'clock UK time would be better for people, sort of thing. But yeah, I sort of said I'd do it, and I'm a man of my word. So here I am trialing it out, and I'm glad you were able to make it today. Puan, apologies if I said that wrong, says, good evening, sir. Good evening to you too. For me, it's only just hit the afternoon, but hello to you too. If we could all like the stream as well, that'll get it pushed out to more people, which means there'll be more people showing up asking questions that you didn't know that you needed the answer for. And obviously it helps the channel grow. Marianne says, I find it hard to visualize. Have you got any tips? Okay, so what is it that you find hard about it? It'd probably be easier to work on what's actually difficult to you as opposed to me just giving you tips. I mean, I can give you one. When it comes to visualization, this isn't really a tip that's like not well known. This is probably the biggest visualization tip that you'll ever hear in a video. But make sure that you are getting in that quiet, calm place, because obviously, especially with like screens and stuff all through our day, our brains are constantly on the go, constantly looking for like memes or new information, or reading blog posts, or looking at like watching TV shows and stuff. So our brains tend not to shut down particularly well at night, especially if we're on screens a lot. And that's when you want to actually utilize visualization the most, is morning and night, because that's when your brain is supposed to shut down the most. So what I recommend is, before you go into the visualization and frustrating yourself, I'd recommend you get into that sort of calm, collected state. You kind of lay down, get comfortable, focus on your breaths and stuff, and really like shut yourself down a bit first, and then go into the visualization. Because if you go straight into visualization after being on all the technology and watching TV shows and stuff, your brain is just going to be constantly going, and therefore you're probably going to struggle to focus on this scene particularly well. So I would advise that you kind of shut yourself down a little bit first. If it helps, maybe don't go on your phone an hour before bed, or maybe read a book 20 minutes before bed, just to kind of get you in that more sort of shut down headspace. So when you actually go to visualize, you're coming from a better place. But yeah, I'd say it's probably best to work on what you find more specifically difficult with visualization. Hey, you're beautiful says, what happens if you don't know how the person would behave? Well, the way that the person would behave isn't really what you need, I suppose, because it's all about you, it's what you want them to behave like. So it would be less about you don't know how they would behave, and more about like how you would want them to behave. And that's what you would focus on. If you can give me a specific example, if what I've just said, if what I just said there doesn't quite like sort of account for your situation, by all means, I'll be happy to go into it. But if you don't know how the person behaves, you're looking externally for the answer. You should be looking internally and say, I don't care how they behave, because this is how I'd prefer them to behave, and then focus on it from that perspective. Natasha says, it works best for me to write it down. Did you? Okay. Yeah, I do like, I don't like scripting. I find it to be, not that I don't like it, I just don't find I enjoy it as much, but I definitely do find that I have quite good success with scripting. It's one of those things that I don't want to do, but I really should, because I find the most success with it, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. But yeah, scripting can be, I feel like scripting for me personally is really good to just get it out, get it on a page. Especially if I'm thinking too much. But yeah, as I said, I think in my most recent stream, actually, someone asked this, and I have a lot of success with scripting, but I don't particularly enjoy it all that much. I do a where is it? Daily gratitude journal, where I just kind of write down. It's a new book, but where I just kind of write down a few things that I'm grateful for and such. I do that daily, but as in terms of like actually scripting my situation and such, I don't particularly do that very often. Emma says, I visualize, but then I go into the 3D reminded that I don't have it, and then stop believing in manifesting. It's hard for me to affirm/visualize because the 3D reflects the opposite, and I'm impatient. Unfortunately, considering everything is a creation of ourselves, of what we've got going on up here, until you change that, it's always going to be the case. I understand that it's like difficult to, have this amazing visual scene and then go into the 3D and be like, um, oh, it's all the opposite. And then, well, how can I trust this scene and such? But you do need to work on those elements of yourself that has faith in the unseen more so than what you do see. Because everything, if you were to look at what your situation is, you will be able to attribute that situation with things that you thought, felt, acted like, put your perception on, all that kind of stuff in the past, therefore proving to you that manifestation works. It's just working against you because you're not having the personal discipline to continue to persist even though you're seeing the opposite. But one way that you can I suppose tackle that is to, whenever you notice that the 3D hasn't reflected and such, try to remind yourself, would I be acting this way if the 3D had reflected? Probably not. Okay, so what do I do now? I will act or think or feel the way, depending on sort of where your awareness of the 3D not changing is kind of lying. Um, I will act, think, or feel in the way that shows that I have this experience right now, the way that that version of me would act, think, and feel, and then operate from that way. Because even if you don't necessarily like believe it, it's best to believe it. It's best to try and have faith in it. But even if you don't, if you're still acting in such a way, you will still receive what that receives. For example, if I like operate my entire life of being generous with money because I sort of have so much money, I must be in the state of having money. That you cannot physically give all of your money away in a generous like mindset and such without reaping some sort of reward. It just doesn't work that way. Your mindset and the state in which you're operating from is what you will receive. So you don't necessarily have to believe that you're doing it, but it would be better. But it's the faith to continue persisting with it that matters. Satyam says, "Thank you for your answers. I love you, big brother from India. And sorry, I have lots of questions." It's absolutely fine. That's what the live streams are for. They're to help out anybody that may need it and can't sort of go more for the direct coaching approach and such. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad to have you here and I'm glad to have your questions. Marianne says, "Okay, thank you for this tip." And I just get distracted by TVs, phones, etc. Okay, yeah. So hopefully my tip will be pretty much what you needed then. Anand says, "I had a question as well. I've got an exam 2 weeks from today. I'm prepared enough, and now I don't really feel like studying since I got sick as well. Now I'm scared. Can I manifest getting 200 out of 300 or better? If so, then how?" I mean, yes, you absolutely can. The way that you do it would be to have faith that it's done. You know that it's all you. Everything that you know, everything that you're doing, and everything you're going to do is going to lead you to getting that 200 or better. And just tell yourself that you received that 200 or better. Focus on a reality in which that is the case. Be grateful for it. Be grateful before it's even happened, because obviously the 3D precedes. The 3D doesn't precede; it follows, and so that means everything that goes on up here must be what comes out first. So that would be the way that you would go about it. Kind of the same with anything else, really. What would the end result be? How would you be in that end result? And then, start acting like it now. Marianne says, "I think scripting might work best for me because scripting might work best for me. I'm going to give it a go. I feel like I'm better at thinking and writing it down than trying to visualize." Absolutely. There's no technique that is better or worse if you struggle with them. If you don't feel like visualization is particularly like good for you, even if it was the best technique in the world, if you struggle with it, it's not going to be the most effective for you. So go for what's best for you. Natty J says, "Hi, good morning." Howdy, howdy, Natty J. Glad to have you here. Nine says, "Actively started meditating and have found that it's helped me to get into a mindset that allows me to visualize better. Also, mental diet is a must, especially when dealing with an SP." Absolutely. Meditation is really good for helping you kind of level out and get in that clear mindset and everything, and then go forward with your techniques. And yeah, mental diet is extremely important. I think it's the same as a normal diet when you think about it. A normal diet is, I can't particularly eat these because it will lead me to this end result, which I don't want. And I need to make sure that I eat this because it will lead me to this result, which I do want. And it's the same with your thoughts. If you think about it, if you were to, let's assume every bad thought is a donut, for example, if you were to keep consuming those bad thoughts, you're eventually going to end up putting on weight. And if putting on weight isn't your goal, and in fact putting on muscle is, then you need to start consuming protein, which is obviously good thoughts and such, and obviously the right calorie intake. So, I mean, that's exactly why it's called a mental diet, because it's exactly the same as a normal diet. And I wish people would be able to make those same attributes to it, so they could stay persistent in it. Marianne says, "Can you still manifest if you're stressing over a different thing? Like I try to manifest and I get stressed over something else." Yes, absolutely. So It's your dominant state in terms of the topic that matters. So if I was to sit here and my entire relationship is crumbling, but my money mindset is on form, I'm going to still keep getting that money. I may not have the best luck over here with relationship, but I will continue to get the money that I was, thinking about. So it doesn't matter if you're stressing about one topic and it doesn't overlap, then that's fine. But try your best if you can to, make sure that you're not stressing about any topic because otherwise you're just going to have struggles in that particular topic. So try to work on staying relaxed in everything if you can. And Anne says, all right, thanks for the advice, Matt. You're very welcome. Matt Schwartz says live at this time. Yeah, now that I'm full time in it, I've decided to try and do an extra live stream during the week for the people that may not be able to make the Saturday ones, just to try and give everyone that opportunity. And yeah, they're bigger turnout than I thought there would be. So this is probably going to be a more consistent thing. I'll probably trial different times just to see if maybe more people can join. Because at the moment, some people might, I don't know. I don't know what time zones people are here mostly from, but some people might be in school or at work still, and an hour later might be the better time for them and such. But yeah, I'm going to try and do live stream during the week earlier for more people, and then obviously the normal Saturday live stream. Try to. Can't guarantee it'll always be like that, but I'll try. Emma says, how to increase belief in LOA after it hasn't worked much lately? Anything I can do to believe more in everyone as you pushed out? Okay, so first off, you say it hasn't worked much lately, but yet if you're receiving the complete opposite of what you want, and sort of the questions here have been very much everything is the opposite of what I want, your awareness is clearly being placed on the opposite of what you want, which means it's actually working perfectly. It's just not working in your favor. So I think the belief would be the thing would be how to increase belief that it could work for me as opposed to it hasn't actually worked, because LOA, or the law of mentalism, is working at all times of the day. But yeah, the way to increase belief in LOA overall, I would recommend the list method. So go for a few things that are sort of not significant enough where you become attached to the outcome, but significant enough where if they manifest, you know that it's you that's done it. Well, obviously you would know it would be that you that's done it, but at least you can sort of say, yep, that is a conscious manifestation. And persist in the idea that they've already happened now. And as it goes on, just tick them off the list. You can see just how many things are actually working out in your favor. The other thing to believe in everyone as you pushed out, actually, I just recently did that video, which is essentially the same as the list method in terms of the parameters of it, but pick someone that that's sort of significant to you, but not so significant that you wouldn't be able to assume that they would follow the rule of everyone as you pushed out. Pick something that you want them to think about you or feel about you or sort of say about you, and then start to claim that it to yourself and change the perception you have on this other person. So start saying, for example, let's just say it was you really want them to compliment your hair. Start saying to yourself, my hair is so incredible. Everyone loves my hair. Everyone compliments my hair. I love my hair. I compliment my hair. All those kinds of things. And if you ever think about this other person, just say to yourself, yep, they complimented my hair. And then continue to persist in that, and it will happen. And this will prove to you that everyone as you pushed out. Once you can prove it with like little insignificant things, then you can go on with bigger things that kind of have more meaning to you, that you're a bit more attached to. Marianne says, oh, okay, thank you so much. That's made me feel better. You are very welcome. I'm glad to help. That's what the live streams are for. And at the moment, we have no comments. I'm just going to eat for a second. I've been a busy bee today. So that's why I got a pot noodle for lunch, because I literally haven't had any time to do anything else. But yeah, hopefully, just while I wait for any other potential comments to come in, hopefully everyone's had a good day so far, or good evening. And yeah. Oh, Nine says, have started to read Neville's book, currently Power of Awareness, and write out key points of info from each chapter. It acts as a good reminder and helps re-cement the info in your mind. Yeah, I do agree. I'm currently reading the Florence Scovelshire collection. It's up there. That's what I was looking up there. And I quite like it. It's nothing that I didn't already like particularly know, but it's just kind of good, like you say, to kind of re-cement it in your mind. It's always good to have like other perceptions, because, for example, some books will be like, yeah, you can do anything. And then some books will be like, oh, you have to make sure it's by divine order. And then other books will be like, well, make sure that you're including the map of consciousness and such. And what I like to do is, even if some books have more limiting beliefs than others, I like to take the best books or the best parts from each book and kind of amalgamate them into my own process so that I can use the map of consciousness, which does kind of involve not so much vibrational law. It doesn't really talk about like vibrations, kind of like law of attraction channels do, but it does talk about being in technically vibration. It doesn't reference it directly, but So it's like obviously like fear, guilt, and all this lot are all like below a level where things don't work out for you. And then once you get to that sort of level 200 and above, that's where things get great. And like love is better than reasoning and such. And I like to incorporate that into my living in the end stuff because I think it's beneficial to live in the end, but coming from a place of love as opposed to living in the end and coming from a place of need or guilt or anything like that. So I like to incorporate the best bits of each book to try and make my process even better for me. Marianne says, "How long does it take to get what you want after manifesting?" It's entirely person dependent. You know, it's like the better you are at staying in the dominant state and looking past what's currently out there and sort of trusting in what's here, you're more than likely going to have quicker results than other people. Not necessarily because, well, mostly just because you're probably going to have a better time impressing the subconscious mind because you're in that dominant state better and such. But in terms of the actual time from when you've impressed the subconscious mind to when it comes like plays out, very difficult to tell. We can't really pinpoint an exact time, which is why you'll probably notice that I haven't really done many videos on my channel where it's like, get it in 3 days, get it in 24 hours, get it in this, get it in that, because I don't want to make those kind of promises and then people struggle to impress the subconscious mind. And then even if they do impress the subconscious mind, they then don't have a bridge of incidents that plays out for less than a week, for example. So it is entirely person dependent and situation dependent. But you can impress the subconscious mind better and faster by being in the dominant state of having and, you know, persisting in that more than you're persisting in what you're seeing out there. Emma says, best LOA books. Okay, so I really like The Map of Consciousness. I know I referenced it a second ago. I really like The Map of Consciousness. I really am enjoying the Florence Scovel Shin book. I'm just trying to see if there's any others that I have up here. The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy is also pretty good for anyone that hasn't read that one. And to be honest, most self-improvement books, so let's go with this one, Adam P.E., The Gladiator Mindset. So Adam P.E. is a swimmer. This is a self-improvement book. This isn't an LOA book, but they touch on like mostly law of attraction. Most of these books reference The Secret, which is obviously law of attraction. So I actually genuinely feel like a lot of self-help books, so I'm still like looking to see if there's any others out there, but a lot of self-help books are actually, in a weird way, better than LOA books, purely because they speak like normal people who don't particularly know about the extensiveness of law of attraction or law of assumption or anything like that. And they just reference it saying, you know, if you do this kind of stuff, this is what you'll achieve. And because of this, it kind of has this everyday life feel. Whereas, like, for example, the Florence Scovel Shin book, she'll reference stuff like, oh, I had this person come to me saying, I need money. And then she went away and did like this one affirmation and held faith. And, you know, she uses reference to scripture and stuff like that. And this person got like £1,000 within a week and such. And it's like, yes, it's entirely possible. Absolutely. I'm never going to say that it's not. But when you read it in that kind of degree, it makes it sound like really over the top. It makes it sound really like, I don't know how to explain it, but when it's these other self-improvement books, it's a lot more toned down and actually kind of like you can incorporate it into your day-to-day life by doing XYZ. But anyway, that's not really what your question was. That was just something that I thought was interesting. Best books, in my opinion, The Map of Consciousness. So far, I would say that the Florence Scovel Shin one is up there. Obviously, the Neville ones for like all of those out there. The Power of the Subconscious Mind is pretty good, but it's like I find it a bit boring, for want of a better term. Good book, like the quality of the content in it is definitely there, but I just didn't really, I don't know, I've had it for a very long time and I just never finished it because it just doesn't really interest me enough. I got literally like 2/3 of the way through. Back here, I used to like do the little like turning the page thing because I didn't have any bookmarks at the time. So yeah, those would be my recommendations. Power of Subconscious Mind is definitely worth the read, but I did find it a bit boring towards the end. But yeah, those are my recommendations. Short says, thoughts regarding episodes that cause reduction in excessive importance. Had one recently with SP and found myself closer to living in the end after turmoil in internal energy shift. Those time-dependent manifestations cause more anxiety and stress, in my opinion. Oh, they're two sort of different comments. Okay, so the first one was thoughts regarding episodes that cause a reduction in excessive importance. So are you sort of saying something bad happens and you're kind of just like, I don't really care about this anymore? Because if so, I 100% agree that they are they kind of in a weird way suck at the time, but actually, yes, I completely understand afterwards, if that's what you're referencing. Afterwards, it can feel so great. It just feels like that weight lifted. It's almost like you've kind of reached that point where it can only suck so bad. And then you tip it and it's just like whatever. And then yeah, it reduces that importance and it's a lot easier. I completely understand. And I actually do agree. I think that they're interesting. I think that they're a funny way of like the human mind working. And I mean, I'd take it, if like it gets to a point where it gets too much and then all of a sudden you don't care, that's only a benefit to you because it means that you're not so fussed about it, which means you can actually live your life a little bit. And the other point of those time dependent manifestations cause more anxiety and stress, in my opinion. Yes, I would 100% agree. I did do a video way back when. I can't remember. I think it was Sammy Ingram posted a video about like manifest in 3 days or something. And I actually posted a video like a week or so later, basically saying, I think what she meant was this because, it's just, I mean, she's got too many subscribers to be posting that kind of stuff. And not because, I mean, she can do what she wants. And it's not that you can't do that kind of stuff, but I think a channel of that size has a lot more people that will probably struggle than people that will succeed, which means the success rate of that kind of statement will more than likely be quite low. And as a result, will make more people feel worse. And it's like, I'm not saying that you can't manifest in a day, and I'm not saying that you can't manifest in 3 days a week or whatever, but I think to advocate, do this and it will work within that time and basically guarantee it is a very difficult thing to do because people have different processes. Some people will find it really difficult to look past the 3D. Some people find it really difficult to do the techniques and stay consistent. And there's just a lot to it. And it's like, I think those kind of videos can make people feel the people that succeed, great, they love it. But the people that struggle, I think, will struggle a lot. Kiati says, "Hey Matt, any advice to stay on track and not to take it as work?" Okay, so it's mindset shifting, which means it is work. I do think that you should try and have your best to have more fun with it than not fun. But anytime you're changing a mindset shift, whether it's LOA related or just the way that you deal with your children or the way that your partner says, "I don't really like this," and then you have to notice yourself before you do it to stop yourself from doing it again. Anything that involves mindset work is always going to have that element of feeling like work. And once you kind of get past that point, then it'll feel more natural. But as for like staying on track, timers are really good kind of to stay on track in terms of like to get yourself to do the techniques and to do the work. I know obviously Sammy Ingram says to do like 3-10 minutes a day. So if you operate by her sort of things, you could do the timers for that. Staying on track is mostly staying aware. It's very difficult to give people advice on how to stay aware because it's their own mindset. They're the ones that need to stay aware. So you need to notice that you're not thinking the right sorts of things and then shift them. Never end a bad thought in a bad way. And try to have fun with it as well. I think if you're taking it as work, chances are you're becoming too attached to the outcome and therefore you're trying to force this change, you're trying to make it happen, and that's why you're getting slightly potentially burnt out from it. So I would say try to remove that element of needing the thing and it won't feel like work as much. Try to have fun with it. Rohan says, how did you live in the end in your terms? How did you live in the end in your term? And I am feeling more comfortable in Rampage Run. Okay, so how I live in the end is I operate by the think, feel, and act sort of principle. So I'll get an understanding of how I would think, feel, and act if I had my desire. And then I will consciously think, feel, and act in that way whenever something comes up that either is for or against my desire. So let's use yes, let's use my band just because I talk about money all the time because it's the easiest one, but let's use my band. Some days I might have days where I don't vocalize as well, and I'll start to notice myself sort of slipping a little bit. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm getting a little bit defeated. I'm a bit like whatever. For example, yesterday, not yesterday, sorry, Sunday, I went to band, but I'd just come off of 2 weeks off from Christmas, so no practice. And obviously I was ill over that period, which is it makes it obviously fucks all this up. And I noticed myself sort of struggling a little bit. And I thought to myself, I was like, how would I think if I was actually absolutely smashing this vocal session? Every time I did a line, I'd be like, that's the one. That's it. It's amazing. They love it. Yada, yada, yada. And that's what I started to do. And the beginning of the session was a bit wobbly. And then towards the end of it, it was a really good session and actually probably one of the better ones we had in a while. And that's how I manifest. I get clear on what I would be like if I was living how I wanted to live. And then I'll just consciously think in that way. I'll act in that way. I'll feel in that way. I know a lot of people say, oh, I feel delusional. I feel like I'm lying to myself. Who cares? That's probably one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to hearing from like clients and such is that I feel delusional. Yes, but that's the route, you know, that's the way that you got to go to an extent. And if you feel delusional but succeed, is it really that stupid? You know what that saying where it's like, if it's a dumb idea but it works, is it actually a dumb idea? It's that kind of thing where it's like, yes, you may feel delusional, but if it works, does it matter? And that's how I operate. So I'll literally, I could do the worst line of my life on like a track and then go to my band and be like, that was the one. And even if they say no, I'm like, that was the one because I'm doing amazing. And I'll just could stay delusional up here. But it worked because we had one of the best sessions in a while. So that's how I operate when it comes to living in the end. And then you also say, and I'm feeling more comfortable in Rampage rather than structured affirmations. Will it serve the same? Yeah, absolutely. If you enjoyed the Rampage, absolutely go for it. Nine says, would you recommend The Magic of Mind by Louise Burley? She was one of Neville's top students. He mentions her in his lectures. I cannot say that I've ever read it. Why am I getting a phone call? 1 second. Sorry, people. Sorry about that, people. Business stuffs, and it's like, can you give me a call back? And they're like, oh yeah, I'll give you a call back in about 45 minutes. Yeah, okay, bye. Yeah, so apologies for that. Was I answering something? And I feel more comfortable in a rap. Oh yeah, so I answered that. It will serve the same. It's an affirmations rampage is just the same as normal affirmations. You're just doing them in like a sort of a different style, but that's absolutely fine. Nine said, oh yeah, sorry, that was the next one, wasn't it? Would you recommend The Magic of the Mind by Louise Burley? She was one of is it Louise Burley even? She was one of Neville's top students. He mentions her in his lectures. Never actually read it, so I cannot say that I would recommend it. But I feel like if she's one of Neville's top students, then I imagine the quality of the content would be worth listening to, worth reading and paying attention to. So I'm not going to personally recommend it, but if she's Neville's top student, then it's probably worth reading. Sean says yes, and that was to my question about the negative situations. And then they also say reaction to 3D equals reduction in importance to 3D back into internal steps towards living in the end. Yeah. The only problem with that, and like it does happen from time to time, and I do agree, like it is great when it does happen. The only problem with that is I find that some people, because I have had other people sort of reference this, some people will do that, they'll react, then they'll reduce the importance, then they'll live in the end and become attached again, and it's just a continuous cycle. So the actual pattern that you referenced there, great. I'm all for it. You know, like it's definitely a good thing. But then some people get kind of stuck in a loop. Marianne says, would you have to manifest every day until you get the result you want? And can you use more than one technique to get the goal you want, or would it be like jinxing it? So you don't necessarily have to do it every single day. This is a really tricky one because it's mindset stuff. So the techniques get you into the state of the wish fulfilled, and then that's where it operates from in order to create. So you don't technically need to do techniques every single day, but you need to at least ensure that your mindset is going in the right direction every single day. You don't want to be not doing a technique one day just because I said you don't have to, but then on that one day that you don't do it, you're panicking, freaking out, saying that it's no, sorry, excuse me, saying that it's never going to happen or anything like that. So you don't technically have to manifest. By manifest every day, I'm going to assume you mean like do techniques and stuff. You don't technically have to do that every day, but it's definitely worth keeping on top of your mindset every day. And you can definitely do more than one technique to get the goal you want. You wouldn't be jinxing it. The only thing that I would recommend is that they all align. For example, if you're scripting about um, getting back together and then you're visualizing about being married for a year, they're kind of conflicting because one implies that you're not together yet and like the reconciliation and such, and the other one implies marriage. And not that it would really do much, but it might just be more difficult for you to stay in that dominant state of yes, we're together or yes, we're married. So I would recommend you at least stay consistent and congruent with the two techniques or three techniques or whatever, but it won't jinx it. Emma says, if I'm having negative thoughts about someone per LOA, that would mean that the person is believing that about themselves, since I'm also then pushed out. They're you pushed out in your reality. So it's one of those situations where it definitely sounds paradoxical. And once you understand it, it makes sense. But we each operate in our own reality. So everyone is you pushed out in yours. And let's say, for example, your best friend had a thought where you didn't like him for whatever reason. You right now liking them wouldn't operate in the same reality in which their consciousness is that of not liking them. In your reality, they would have a version of them where their consciousness would be that of you liking them. If you were to all of a sudden stop liking them, you would shift into a reality in which you don't like them and they know you don't like them. So the way that people operate in this reality is by having the same perceptions on situations as each other. And as soon as that changes, you go into a different sort of reality, so to speak, where you operate and they operate and it's the same sort of operation until it's not, and then you shift again. I don't think I explained that particularly well, but yeah, essentially, no, in your reality, you're the operant power and there you pushed out. Is not being sure about wanting a desire a form of resistance? I wouldn't necessarily say it's a form of resistance. I'd just say it's a form of indecision. Maybe if you're not sure about it, it's potentially worth just sitting there and having a proper think about it so that you don't end up wasting time with it. Um, but I wouldn't say it's a form. If it's, I'm not sure if I want this because it'll be too difficult to get. Yes, that could be considered a form of resistance. But if it's literally, I'm just not sure if I want this yet, not really necessarily resistance. But look deeper into it and see for sure. Marianne says, yeah, I understand. I would just have just manifested the one thing I want. Yeah, I understand. I would. Yeah, exactly. So you can go with that. Lady R says, "What a lovely surprise! I didn't know there's a live now. I'm so happy I made it. Hi, Matt. Howdy, howdy. So the reason there's one now is now that I'm full time in this business and coaching and such and YouTube, I will be trying to do a live stream earlier on in the week as well as the Saturday one, just to try and give more people an opportunity to um get their questions asked and stuff. And speaking of which, did you want to put your questions in here or did you want me to read them off of the email that you sent? Because I was actually about to do that after this. Thanks a lot. Lydia says, thanks a lot. We appreciate that. You're very welcome. Okay, so I'll answer Molly. Apologies if I said that wrong. And then I'll do yours, Lady R. So Molly says, how to live in the end when you have resistance. So resistance doesn't actually exist. Resistance is there because of yourself. Resistance is placed there by your awareness. For example, in the infinite power of the universe, God, subconscious, whatever you like to refer to it as, there are no limitations, which means it's your conscious, logical mind that is seeing this situation saying it can't happen because of this. If you're living in the end effectively, there is no resistance. Whatever it is that you're claiming as your resistance right now cannot physically exist in your end result. If it's, let's say, for example, a third party, in your end result where you're with your specific person, that third party cannot physically exist if you're in a loving committed relationship, which obviously would be hopefully your end result. So therefore, because of that, if you're living in the end, there is no resistance. So go straight to the end result and just bypass any resistance. Stop looking at the logical, conscious, this thing is in my way, because that doesn't matter to God, infinite supply, whatever it is you want to refer to as. So how to live in the end is just that. I live in the end. Even the next part of your question, when you have resistance, you can't live in the end and have resistance. So choose whichever one you want to operate from. Do you want to focus on the resistance or do you want to focus on the end? And then just continue to persist in, I have this because of, we're together with this, with that, yada, yada, yada. And don't let the resistance get in the way, the obstacle get in the way. Okay, so I have some things over via an email from Lady Ark. She wasn't sure if she was going to make it. So should SP affirmations and visualization have his name, or should it be my partner, my love, my SP, etc.? It doesn't matter either or. If you have a name, use it if you want to. If you refer to him as my partner, you'll know who you're thinking of. So that's whichever is more comfortable for you in the moment is absolutely fine. I personally use name just because I want to be as specific as I possibly can. But if I say my partner, I know who I'm talking about, How will you know your subconscious mind has been successfully impressed? You will generally feel an internal shift. You'll generally feel, in a lot of cases, people don't really want to continue doing their technique. They'll kind of just feel like it's done. They'll feel more relaxed about it. Things won't affect them as much. There isn't really like a switch where it's just like, oh, yep, done. You don't really feel like that, but it's more of an internal state, an internal shift that you'll kind of feel. Can you manifest just by living in the end only on a regular? Yes, absolutely. Any technique or whatever is getting you to live from the end. So if I was to affirm I am in a loving relationship, that technique is just getting me living from the end. So absolutely. Feeling like you are partners, is it being delusional or living in the end? I often feel like I'm not single anymore. I feel partnered. I got off dating apps. So to a degree, being delusional and living in the end are kind of one in the same. You're looking at what's not here right now and claiming it to be here right now. So being delusional to a degree is living from the end. It's just the perspective that you have on it. If you feel like you're being delusional, you also feel like you're lying to yourself, which is not living in the end. So even though they're technically the same thing, you're basically lying to yourself as if it's happening now in order to make it happen. Claiming it as being delusional is claiming as this isn't true for me. I'm lying. I'm being stupid. I'm faking, yada, yada, yada. Living in the end is this isn't true for me, but it is true for me, if that makes sense. So if you feel like your partners and you're not single anymore, you come off dating apps and such, and you feel good about it, I would say that's living from the end. If you've done all of that and you feel stupid, you feel silly, you feel like what's the point, blah blah blah, then maybe there's an element of delusion. So that would obviously be where you want to operate from. And is daydreaming about being with your SP being delusional? For example, I think, oh, SP would like this. No, I think that's living from the end. I actually recommend that quite a lot in my videos where I'll be like, oh, you see an ornament, and then you'll go home and like tell yourself that when you go home, you'll see it and show them. So I think that that's absolutely fine. I think daydreaming is a good way to go about it if you want to, if you enjoy it. So yeah, hopefully that answers all of your questions. I do have to head off soon, so I'm going to answer the rest of these. If I ask you to comment, then obviously by all means comment. If not, if you do have any questions, maybe save it for the next live, just because I've got a whole bunch of stuff to get on with. But yeah, so Marianne says, I love your lives. You explain everything so well and always have the answers. I'll be joining every time. Well, I'm glad to have you here, Marianne. It's very nice to see new people, and especially new people that are willing to stick around. And obviously all the OGs, everyone here is appreciated. Beatrice says, I felt triggered yesterday, but it lasted for like 20 minutes. I quickly focused on self-concept, and I was wondering if that little moment could affect my manifestation. So considering it's your dominant state that manifests, I would probably say that you're more than likely okay. I mean, I can't say for sure because I don't know what's going on dominantly. 20-minute spiral or panic or whatever trigger is a bit of a long one. I'm not going to lie, but a lot of people that I deal with on a regular basis will say that they were doing this spiral for days. They were doing it for like the entire night. They were doing it for XYZ, and we've still managed to turn it around and get them their success story. So I think if you're dominantly in the right state and you have a bit of a blip, you're probably okay. But the one thing that I would recommend is not to worry about the blips. If you spiral and then spiral because you've spiraled, that's still a spiral. If you spiral and go, it is what it is, I did it, I'm gonna just move on, focus on the end result, that's the best thing that you can do, because the spiral's been done now. You know, that there's no point dwelling on it, there's no point worrying about it. The best thing that you can do is what you do going forward. Natty J says, my students were super disrespectful and not listening to me yesterday. How to not react inside when it's right in your face? I know they're just reflecting me, so I'm not too upset. In this kind of instance, in my personal, what I would do, and obviously you might want to disagree, I would set some boundaries. You know, I'd sort of point out that I'm not going to take that level of disrespect. Once you've done that, then you let it go and just assume that what you've said is going to make a change. They are nice people. They are respectful. They do everything to make your life easier and such. In terms of how to not react when it's inside your, like right inside your face, sort of kind of similar to what I just said a second ago, but kind of branching on it a little bit more. If you are to react, it is not the end of the world. It doesn't kill your manifestation. It may delay it to an extent. It may delay it, but it's not going to kill the manifestation. All that matters is if you do react, you just move on from it. You say, yep, it's done. I did it. I'm going to move on from it. If you don't react and you manage to hold it in or such, or look past it and change the perception of it, then that's great. So in terms of how to not react, like if you're actively trying to avoid reacting because you don't want to set the boundaries and you just don't want to make anything worse, my advice, maybe to take yourself away for a couple of minutes, have a couple of deep breaths, or just focus on your breathing in the moment. Try to do it when they don't see, just because you don't want to get like clowned by a bunch of like kids. But but if you if you need to take a couple of breaths just to center yourself and sort of bring yourself back to the present moment, that would probably be your best bet. Marianne says that the key is to just imagine like you're living in the present moment with what you want to manifest, like nothing's happened. Yeah, essentially, in very short terms, yes. Emma says, I want to manifest him having the relationship talk with me. How to do? In all honesty, you're best off just go straight to the end result of being in the relationship, because whether he has the talk with you or not, you're obviously wanting the relationship. Unless you're wanting a relationship talks with you, you can deny him, which in my opinion would be a complete waste of time. And I would advise that you just go off for what you do want. If you want the relationship talk, chances are it's because you actually want the relationship. So I would advise just going straight to having the relationship, focus on the end of having said relationship and kind of persist in that assumption. And if the talk happens, great. If it's not part of your bridge of incidents, don't worry about it. You've got the relationship. Monica Santos says, "Hi, Matthew. Just got in to say good afternoon. I'm at work. Good afternoon to you too, Monica, and thank you for stopping in." Puan, sorry if I said that wrong. So I am affirming SP loves me, SP marries me. Imagine SP with me, marriage, anniversary, 3D, no, SP rejected me, 3P, third party talk, how to manifest. Okay, so what I sort of concocted from that is that you are working on being married with your specific person, but they've said no and they're with a third party. So the principles here, obviously I did literally just do a video yesterday, which I would highly recommend you watching about third parties. It could be really good for you. But essentially take your focus off of the third party, off of anything that doesn't align with your end result, and place it on the end result that you want. So continue persisting with your affirmations about you being with your SP in loving marriage and your imagination with SP and such, because that's what creates. If you continue to persist in noticing the third party, pushing the 3D, checking the 3D, all you're doing is saying to yourself that this is how it actually is, and all of the affirmation work that I'm doing is just null and void. So if what you're focusing on is in line with your end result, continue to focus on it, continue to place your awareness on it. If it's not, take your focus off of it and place it on what you do want instead. Lady R says, fantastic. Thanks, Matt. You're very welcome. NGGN says, you're very helpful to me. Thank you. You're very welcome. I'm glad to be helpful. Natasha says, thanks for coming on. I'm watching from Las Vegas. Las Vegas, that's kind of cool. I every time I think of Las Vegas, I always think of like just casinos and stuff. I don't even know if it's got anything else going there, because in the UK, all we hear about Las Vegas is just the casinos and all that lot. But yeah, you're very welcome. I'm glad that you were here to make it. Rohan says, sir, one thing I noticed that 3P has gone for good. You told me not to give that thing energy and it worked, but still some past remaining fears are playing out. I know it will pass by. Thank you, sir. And is the behind scenes the behind the scenes incident? Okay, so first off, I'm glad that the third party's gone. Obviously, yes, you take your attention away from them and they have no place to live in your reality. So that's really good. If some old fears are playing out, your best bet is to, if you've still got those fears, work on them from there. If you don't, I would advise, just looking past what's playing out now, because all of this is just the current 3D that is based on old stuff. So look past it and continue to persist in your end result. And I'm not 100% sure what you mean, and is the behind the scenes incident. So I'm not sure what to say on that. Lady R says, I'm often very busy during the day and I don't have much time to do techniques, but I do make sure that whenever I think about my desires, it's from the end with having what I want. Is that enough? Well, it will be, yeah, because of your dominant state. If I have 10 thoughts in a day and 8 of them are good, that's still dominant state. Just because having 1,000 thoughts and 800 of them are good is more thoughts, it's just the same amount of dominant state. It's still 80% of being in the dominant state. So less thoughts means less to have to be good, which is a lot of the times why people will find that really insignificant things will manifest really quickly. Because what's more likely? I'm going to be constantly sort of wavering about my specific person coming in, or constantly wavering about whether or not my mum's going to pick me up milk from the shop. One of them is a lot less important than the other one to us, and therefore we're definitely going to be having a lot less thoughts about the milk from the shop. And therefore, if we do have a thought about like the milk coming from the shop from our parent, it's probably going to happen because it doesn't take a lot to be in the dominant state. So the less thoughts you have, to an extent, the easier it'll be. But that's all depending on where your dominant state lies. Puan says, thank you, Angel Sir. You're very welcome. And Marianne says, thank you, Matthew. You have made me understand even better now. I hope you have a good day. You are very welcome, and I'm glad to help. Right, everyone, thank you very much for showing up to this midweek stream. It actually did a lot better than I thought it was going to do. So I'm probably going to put up a poll and see what other people think about times, just if there's any kind of adjustment that may be needed. But I probably will keep it at this time on a Tuesday, just because it seems to have done quite well. So thank you all very much for showing up, and I will catch you all in the next one. Bye-bye.